Tottenham Hotspur are having a fantastic season under Ange Postecoglou. He's reinvented the team, brought a new breath of fresh air with new signings, new tactics and a whole lot of energy around the football club. Gone are the torrid days at Tottenham Hotspur under Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte and Nuno Espirito Santo. We finally have a manager who is using players to their full potential. The likes of James Maddison, Heung-Min's son and Richarlison have found new form and been fantastic in the Premier League campaign. However, after a spellbinding season, there are still a few issues for Ange Postecoglou to outline at Tottenham, and in particular, a low block. So today I'll be answering why Ange Postecoglou needs to sort this low block issue. As mentioned in my previous videos, the last few Tottenham games, especially at home, have been tricky. I mean, Wolves in particular, where we lost 2-1, we just couldn't break them down. Crystal Palace, it took us until the 70th minute to break down their very tough defence. It took a couple of issues and, a mistake from Joachim Andersen for us to get any joy at their back line. Brighton, similarly, pressed us into the abyss and we really had to try hard to break them down as well. Everton spring to mind as well. There are a lot of teams who play a low block in the Premier League, and for those of you who don't know, this is what a low block is. You should be well aware of what a low block is because we have been playing this style of football under Jose Mourinho, under Antonio Conte. It's a very defensive style of play. It reminds me of the days of Big Sam Allardyce at Bolton, where he would have two banks of four usually and two strikers, and they would really defend hard and then try and counter-attack up the pitch. It's suffocating teams. It is making sure that they can't pass through the lines, and you then have to result with crossing the ball into the centre backs, who are usually able to deal with crosses, as it is quite hard to score from a cross. Obviously, with Tottenham Hotspur having a new style of football under Ange Postecoglou, we're seeing a lot more of the ball. We're pushing our defence higher up the pitch. They're on the halfway line, a risky style of play. But with this, it is pressing other teams back and they're having to defend more. But there are issues with this, because Tottenham are finding it somewhat hard to break down defences. And it is quite funny saying this, considering that the score did end 3-1 against Crystal Palace. We did score goals. We have been scoring goals. We're on one of our longest consecutive scoring runs in the Premier League. But in certain situations, we are not becoming as potent in front of goal and putting away our chances and letting teams back into it. Here's, say, Everton in the last minute in the recent Premier League fixture. But without coming across too negative, Tottenham have been amazing in the Premier League. Ange Postecoglou has changed around every metric and really made this a squad that can compete at the top of the Premier League table. Tottenham's possession is up from 49.8% last season to 61% this. They are also taking more shots per game, 15.7 compared to 13.6 in 22-23, while their XG per shot has increased from 0.11 to 0.12, a marginal rise despite Kane's sale in the summer to Bayern Munich. And I don't think many Tottenham fans would be afraid to say that our results have been better than our performances, because there have been moments where we've got lucky to get goals against Brighton. Against Crystal Palace, it took a 20-minute spell for us really to turn the game on its head. Against Everton, we weren't that good. They had a lot of the ball. So in moments, we have looked a bit lacklustre. But why is that? Many will say it was down to Tottenham's injury situation. Heung-Min's son was at the Asian Cup as well. Yves Bissouma was at AFCON, as I mentioned. James Maddison suffered a long-term injury and Tottenham did lack some creativity. They really needed a player who could thread a through ball and really make the most of some of the back line. We've had to rely on players such as Brennan Johnson coming on late in games to really make the most of defences and wear them out using his pace. Timo Werner was brought in as a pacey winger to again solve this issue as well. But speaking of James Maddison, there is a lot of pressure on him. If he's not creating chances, then Tottenham may not score. I mean, it took his amazing cross for Christian Romero to get Tottenham the lead in the game against Crystal Palace, but if he's not creating, who really is? And we know that in a creative sense, we have been using our inverted fullbacks, more predominantly Destiny Udogie and Pedro Porro. But obviously, in recent weeks, Destiny Udogie was injured, but he returned at the weekend and played quite well. And Pedro Porro is still out, so Emerson Royal has been in his space. But the problem with that is teams are clocking onto this creativity and putting extra men in midfield to basically absorb this. And with Werner and Kulusevski becoming narrow in the formation, you know, sometimes Tottenham's play can become predictable, and if you get more men in the low block, then we're not going to be able to create chances and therefore score goals. Even at his time at Celtic, you know, Ange Postecoglou did have this issue as well. Teams would sit in and make it really, really frustrating for him. But we should also remember that he is less than a year into his Tottenham tenure, and on the whole, there have been many positives than negatives for him to deal with. I, for one, have loved Ange Ball completely. I can see the positives of it, but I know there are also negatives to it as well. With this high attack, we have a high line, meaning we are prone to a counter-attack, but Mickey van der Ven has come in to basically sort this issue. We know we could do with more potent attackers. I think that's where the issue comes. We have issues when it comes to the forward line. We need players who are able to finish these chances. We've seen in recent games, you know, Timo Werner through one-on-one, puts it wide, narrow of the mark. If you have a Harry Kane in that situation, maybe that goal ends up in the back of the net. But with the return of Son, with Maddison back in the team, I think this low block issue can resolve itself. If we're being more creative and creating those chances, I think we will be able to finish them off. You know, panic stations may be going around people's heads about this low block situation, but I think it is nothing to be too concerned about. I just think it's about logistics and sort of dealing with in-game management. Postecoglou has been criticised sometimes for his substitution in games, but in recent weeks he has been using Brennan Johnson perfectly in these situations. So I don't think it is too much to panic about just yet. But in later games against different opponents, when maybe we need different players, that's when we should start considering getting rid of the likes of Hove and bringing in more players who are competent enough to play the Ange Ball system. So there we have it. That is Tottenham's low block issue. Do you think it is that much of an issue, or can Spurs resolve it this season to finish in the top 4? Let me know. And if you like this style of video, which is a bit more deep dive, a bit more creative in the edit, let me know. I've put a lot of hard work into this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you have enjoyed, why don't you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and also you can become a member. Link in the description down below. I've been Sonny, and I'll see you again pretty soon. Ciao.